Hi there, it's me, Brett Fish, and welcome to another episode of Race With Me. The other night, my wife Val and I were having dinner with friends of ours, Nati and Ziyanda, and we got chatting about these videos and got to hear some of their perspectives and listen to some of the things that they would like to see some of their white friends getting and understanding and wrestling with. And so this particular episode is going to be dedicated to some of the thoughts that Nati shared, and specifically around this idea of pitching up, but pitching up well. So when we talk about pitching up and pitching up well, we're talking especially about doing this in the context of relationships and friendships. And hopefully by now you have been being more intentional about developing your friendships with people that don't look like you. And this is about just being a little bit more aware and intentional and observant. And one of the things that Nati said the other night, which really struck me, was this: don't assume just because your black friends aren't talking about race, it isn't happening every day. And that is something good for us to remember, that it's not just when our friends are speaking about a racial incident that is the only time that they experience race as a hurdle or a boundary or as something that causes conflict or whatever it is. It is happening every day. And one of the things for white people to realize is that we are often unaware of this because our race, being white, rarely gets in the way of our day-to-day happenings. Things, we don't get disadvantaged because we're white, we don't get followed because we're white, we don't get stopped because we're white, we don't have suspicion cast our way because we're white. And yet those things and more are happening to black, colored and Indian people every day, all the time, and that can be super exhausting. And I think that's one thing for us to be aware of, or to start becoming aware of. Another thing Nati said is reach out in terms of asking questions and inquiring. But the key for that is relationship, and how much trust have you developed with people that don't look like you? Because if it's an early friendship and you haven't gone deep, or you haven't gone far, you haven't got to know each other for a long time, then trust is going to be low. Trust is something that builds over time, and especially when there's something that can come in the way of trust, as race can, given our history and our context and all of that, we have to realize that that's going to take a little bit longer. And so one of the ways we start building trust is by asking questions, not in an interrogation style, but just by showing our friends who don't look like us that we're interested in what's going on. And so right now, as we're watching this, we've just seen Kamala Harris has become the first black woman to become vice president in the United States. Ask your black friends, what does it mean? What is the significance? Is there significance that a black woman is vice president in the United States for the first time? Does that resonate with you? Is there anything you feel about that? And then just listen to what they say. When George Floyd incidents were happening, just being able to go to our black friends and colleagues and saying, how are you feeling about this? What does this bring up in you? How does this land with you? Is there anything I can do? Is there anything you'd like from me? How can I understand this a little bit better, and the meaning it has for you? And so inquiring and asking questions is a safer way to start to learn and understand and hear and show empathy. But the depth of relationship becomes key. And as your relationship deepens, you can ask deeper questions. You can ask things that become a bit more vulnerable and personal, and we can start to gauge, where are we in this friendship? Is this a space where I'm able to ask this? Another thing Nati said was being available to listen and being a safe space. And if you are in a point of relationship with a person who doesn't look like you and they share some trauma with you, this is like they share an incident that happened at work, or they share something that happened, something was said about their kids, or any kind of race incident that they share is a traumatic thing. And so if they are sharing this with you, there's a sign that you are in. There's a moment of them saying, I feel safe enough to trust you with this information. And so that is something to really take as a gift, to really kind of lean into. And it's important in those moments that we are not trying to fix things, we're not trying to rationalize, or defend or explain away, and white people can be very good at that, trying to provide an alternative point of view or perspective, which often ends up looking like defending the white person in the conversation. And even if that stuff might be true sometimes, just don't go there. Don't start there. The first thing we need to do is just listen, lean in, and be able to hear and hopefully to empathize. Something has happened, it has caused trauma in your friend. What's going on? How can I get this? How can I start to understand what is going on? And so those are just a couple of the ideas, and they all resonate about this idea of pitching up. And so we had another conversation with another friend of ours last night who was mentioning a group of friends where they're all white except one person, and when the George Floyd event happened, she was the only person that reached out to her friend and said, hey, how are you feeling about this? How are you doing about this? And I've heard other people that have said the same. And so that might feel a bit weird. It might feel a bit strange to you. But when something happens that puts race in the forefront, that is something that's been racialized, check in with your friends. Send a message if chatting to them feels a bit weird or whatever. But just send a WhatsApp going, hey, I saw this and I thought of you, and I just want to know how are you doing? Because from stories I've heard, even just checking in with how your friends are doing, particularly George Floyd was a huge one, but other incidents that happen all the time. Hey, how are you doing? Especially if something happens at home. I just want to know how things are going on. We need to pitch up. We need to show that we care, and we need to show that we are there to listen, not to be the answer, not to be the savior, not to swoop in and try and defend or protect, certainly not to get in the way and make things worse, but just to start listening and seeking to understand. If we do this, if we start to pitch up, we are going to see friendships deepen and grow. We're going to see trust grow. We're going to see vulnerability, and things are just going to get so much easier from there.